My cat licks my wounds. I've had my cat, Cherry, for about 3 years now. She's a wonderful little calico, and I'd give the world for her. And as far as I can tell, Cherry cares about me too. You see, I don't live a very dangerous life. I ride my bike to my desk job every day, where I sit and I fix people's computers' problems until it's time for me to ride back home. I rarely go out with friends, I don't have a significant other, it's just me and my cat. But of course, that doesn't make me immune to injury. Whenever I get hurt, usually just something insignificant like paper cut. Cherry always sits on my lap and licks my wounds. It's not necessarily an abnormal thing for a cat to do from what I can tell from a brief Google. I take it as a sign that Cherry's looking out for me and that she wants to keep me safe just as much as I do her. One morning, though, before I went to work, I was sitting on the couch with Cherry when she began to lick my arm. Her coarse tongue was repeatedly ran halfway up my forearm to my elbow and on my left arm a bit. This was a bit odd, as she only licked areas that I was injured at. Silly you, I'm not even hurt there, I say playfully, gently nudging her head away from my arm. Cherry meowed loudly at me, and the moment I took my hand away, began to frantically lick the same pattern as before. At this point, I was seriously weirded out. Okay, Cherry, I've gotta go to work now. I'll see you later, I said as I stood up and moved towards the door. I rode to work, didn't think about the incident for the rest of the day. That is until the ride home. I passed a woman walking her dogs. They were big, energetic dogs, and one of them seemed to take a liking to me and lunged at my bike, causing me to swerve wildly. I crashed just off the side of the road. Just as I was thinking this stuff was the reason I wasn't a dog person, I looked down at my arm. I could barely hear the woman's apologies as I stared at the deep cut running halfway up my forearm to my elbow on my left arm. Looking at where I'd crashed, it seemed I'd cut myself on a shard of a broken beer bottle someone had haphazardly tossed to the side of the road. Miraculously, I'd gone off the road just a block or so from the hospital. I returned later that day, my cut bandaged thoroughly. Cherry didn't even attempt to lick the injury. After all, what was the point? Why lick a wound she's already licked? I avoided Cherry for the rest of the evening. I didn't know what had happened, what my cat had done, but I didn't want it happening again. That night, I woke to a familiar sensation. The feeling that could only be described as wet sandpaper running over my skin. I opened my eyes and saw Cherry laying on my belly, repeatedly licking from one side of my neck to the other.